Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball series with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And as you can see, we are playoff bound. We finished 86 and 76, which was good for the first NL wildcard spot. Now, in the last episode, I did talk about kind of covering down the stretch for the division race, and as you can see, it wasn't much of a division race. Pretty much, once it got to the beginning of September, we allowed the Cubs to take the division lead, and then pretty much after that, we hung around for a bit. So I kind of went pretty slow and was about to start making a video, but then I said that I would sim one more series, and then pretty much after that, it just became like a 5-game lead, and we just never going to be able to cover that ground. We pretty much played 500 ball down the stretch. Even worse than 500 ball at the beginning of the month. So we just did not end the season well. We had we just didn't have a great end of the season. We actually were like 3 games up in the wild card, and then at the end of the season we kind of limped to the finish because we didn't win the division, but I figured we'd have a secure home wild card game, and even that became dicey at the end because we only had a 1-game lead up over the Padres. Actually, the Phillies had a worse collapse than us because they were 2 games behind us with like a week to go or a week and a half to go, something like that. And the Padres actually ended up overtaking them. As you can see, they were 8-2 in their last 10, so they came storming down the last stretch. So we're gonna go ahead and look at the index just to see what our expected win-loss was. And it was pretty poor. It was 92 and 70, which so we underperformed quite a bit. We still made the playoffs. 92 wins would not have actually would have been a tie for the division lead. So that's kind of disappointing. I was really hoping to win the division, honestly, because even in those Pirates teams that were good in 2010, 2013, 14, 15, they never won the division in those years as good as they were. So they always had to deal with the wild card game, and that's going to be us in this series too. I mean, we're the first wildcard team. It sucks because it's that one game playoff, which is pretty can be pretty random. It's a 1-game series, so pretty much anything can happen, and it's not necessarily reflective of just how good a team is. But with that said, let's go ahead and look at how the team did over the course of the year. First, we're going to take a look at the injured list to kind of update who is injured. Brubaker, Taylor, and Tomlin both continued to be out for the whole year. Jared Jones partially tore his UCL. Prospect we of course called up one of our top prospects. He wasn't very good in the 4 starts he did make in the major leagues, but it really sucked to see that he partially tore his labrum, I should say. So that should not positively affect his development. So that really sucked to see. We also did see some other injuries. Tristan McKenzie ended up coming back from his injury, and he was pretty good once he came back. Javi Guerra, he went down for quite a bit, and he, although is back now. And then hitting wise, pretty much everyone who I mentioned was out. In the previous episode is back. Christian Robinson is back. Florial is back. And they all have been back pretty much, and then no major injuries on the hitting side of things. And speaking of the hitting side of things, we'll go ahead and kind of recap how the season went. Rortvedt had his best year offensively by far. 267, 352, and 433 slash line there. Was an above average hitter at the plate. Was extremely good, at least much better than he had been. This is his best season so far, and hopefully he can continue to turn in some very good performances for us. Jacob Stallings pretty much fit into right how he had been performing when we traded him during the last season. Almost a league average hitter. Of course, Stallings is a pretty good defensive catcher, so always has that going for him. And they're probably one of the best catching tandems in the league. I can't imagine that there would be catching tandem that would be much better than them. Chai-Ju Ko is, of course, our main run producer. He had pretty much his best season. It's kind of hard to tell because he didn't play as much in 2023, but this season he was full on, just our starting first baseman, hit over 40 homers, 272, 349, 525. Fantastic season for him. Just an awesome season. He is, it's going to be tough this season. What we're going to do, we're going to be able to renew him for $3.2 million because of the extension of team control. But it's going to be interesting to see what we're going to do with him after this. Rambus Adamant had to be the most improved player and possibly the MVP of our team this season, to be honest. Last year we brought him in, was a buy low free agent. He just did not perform well. Really, he was only on this team again, kind of by accident. I just forgot that he was an auto renew and was an arbitration eligible guy. So I just kind of, he wasn't really on my radar and just auto renewed his contract. And I figured, maybe he could perform better. I thought he could perform better based on his hitting ratings. I didn't think how he did last year was really his true talent, and he probably, I wouldn't say probably this is true talent either, but he performed extremely well, got on base a ton. He was our leadoff hitter pretty much the entire season with that OBP of 367. He was a very good player. Had a 2020 season. He hit 21 home runs and stole 34 bags. I only got caught stealing 9 times. 75% stolen base rate is kind of the threshold that you want to be above, and he was at 79%. So maybe got caught a little more than you would like, but still very good. He also played better defense at second base. He was just so much improved for this team, which he's definitely one of the main reasons why we performed so well this season in comparison to last season. Ke'Bryan Hayes had his best offensive season yet. A 320 average, OBP of 385, 479 slugging. He was very good for us this year. His best season with the bat by far. Of course, he didn't get a full season in because of his injury to start the year, but still he had a very good season. By any means. He might have actually had his best career WAR total. No, that was actually in 2022, but still, a great season nonetheless. Steven Almeas, he was pretty decent for us this season. 327 OBP is pretty much all I could ask out of Almeas. He's never going to hit for any power. He's not going to hit for a good average. I just want him to be a guy who can be on base in the bottom of our lineup, and 327 OBP is fine. For a guy of his defensive caliber. So I will take that kind of offensive season from him. Of course, fielding-wise, he, was a great shortstop. He, maybe wasn't as good as I would like him to be. He only did play 115 games, though. So, I'm sure his defensive statistics would go up with more time. But, yeah, he was good, a good player for us this season. Hopefully continues playing good defense, and hopefully he could be a playoff hero as he was in the Tiger series that I had previously. Cole Tucker, his year was basically just a race to the bottom. He, of course, started as our everyday third baseman when Ke'Bryan Hayes was hurt, and then his numbers pretty much just dipped from there. He didn't have a particularly great season. With the bat, nothing close to how he performed previously. But he had a fine season, almost slugged 400. His defensive versatility made him a plus player. It's a fine season for him, to be honest. At 300 OBP, he had a bit of pop. It's a fine season for a kind of guy who what we basically needed him to do. Nick Senzel was on fire for the Pittsburgh Pirates once we acquired him. He hit 322, 401, and 535 with the Pirates. A huge improvement from Cincinnati. That trade could not have gone any better. He was awesome for us fielding-wise. He pretty much played left field every game for us. Slotted in at the left fielder spot and played great defense for us there. He was a plus get this season. That trade was just fantastic. I'm very happy I made it. Of course, hindsight is 2020, but still a great trade for us. Jing Shang, he was pretty good. He was mainly used as a pinch hitter off the bench against right-handed pitching. He hit fantastic in that role. Didn't get many starts again, but he was a dynamite pinch hitter for us off the bench. So, a very good season for him. He might have a bigger role next season. He is, of course, a great offensive player. Christian Robinson did not do so hot once he came back. He hit 216, 305 OBP in the year, slugging just over 400. His average was around like 250-ish, I think, by the time he got hurt. So, his numbers just dips from there. In the wild card game and in the playoffs, if we would advance further, I'm going to start Travis Swaggerty in center field over Christian Robinson and have him be a pinch hitting option against left-handed pitching. We'll certainly need it because Palma won't be on the playoff roster. He was awful in the outfield for us. So, Swaggerty will be our starting center fielder against right-handed pitching at least. Christian Robinson will probably still start against left-handed pitching. Swaggerty will be the starter against right-handed pitching in center field for the playoffs. Our last outfielder that we have to go over. Let's talk about Swaggerty too. He was very good for us this year. He was pretty good for us last year. He only improved upon those numbers and more at-bats this year. 292, 358, 439. He got at-bats versus left-handed and right-handed pitching. He was pretty fantastic. Definitely more than I would expect out of him, but he just keeps on hitting, and as long as he keeps on hitting, I'll just keep on playing him. So, very good season for him. Florial had a huge bounce back season. Of course, last year he spent pretty much the whole season in AAA. Didn't perform particularly well, so I was kind of nervous about just handing him the keys to a starting outfield job. And he pretty much exceeded all expectations. He was banged up for a decent bit, but a 344 OVP, 444 slugging. He was a nice little power bat for us. He was above average offensively. Pretty much every guy that we started consistently on our team was above average offensively, except Almeas. But of course, I'm fine with him being below average, and he never will be average or above average. But a very good season for the Pirates offense. In fact, we were third in runs scored in the National League, which was pretty huge. I think it's the first time in the series that our batting was ahead of our pitching, which is pretty crazy to think about. We're also the best base running team in baseball, which is very good to see. We're getting on at a good clip, and we're not only are we on base, but we are very good at running the bases when we are on base. Pitching wise, kind of a mixed bag. Lots of good performances, not many bad. Kawasaki, we pitched him a lot. With kind of the injuries we had, he did not perform well at all, so we sent him down. Some other guys, Gonzalez got some major league time. Just want to go over these guys real quick. Lawson barely got any time. This guy didn't get any. Wyman did not get any as well. Bay, of course, was huge for us in the beginning of the season. He did not get back to the bigs, and we just didn't have any need for him in the roster, but he, of course, performed well when we did need him. And that's it for all the guys in the minors, I think, that made major league appearances this season. Now for pitching, Yadier Alvarez has injury diagnosis pending. He just hasn't been nearly as good as we kind of thought. His ratings have gone down a lot, and he still throws hard. That control is still not there. He's injured at the moment, so who knows what's going to come of that. He might not be able to get any postseason action, but we will see. Mitch Keller, he was probably had his worst season for his pitching. That ERA is always in the 4s, but this time his FIP was also in the 4s. His FIP is usually better than his ERA. So, not the best season necessarily for Keller, but still a good option for us, part of our solid rotation. Kumar Rocker, he was kind of just a bit better than Keller. ERA is better than his FIP. Actually, really similar numbers. Same walk rate, same strikeout rate, virtually the same home run rate. The only difference was the BABIP against Rocker. It seems like he, was able to maybe get a little luckier in the balls that were hit and play. The average against him was a lot lower. So, very similar season from them. Rocker, he's 24, only has room to grow. All-star for the first time this season, so hopefully he can do some things for us. Quinn Priester, he honestly kind of similar numbers to everybody else. Same strikeout rate in the 8s. His was a little higher, walk rate was lower, but he also allowed more home runs. So Priester had a fine season. He was of course banged up, so nothing too much to read into there. Of course, his ratings are kind of huge here because he's slotted in as the closer right now, just because of how playoff rotations work. Victor Gonzalez, he was pretty good. He's always a pretty good lefty, reliable lefty for us out of the bullpen. ERA wasn't awesome, but he does his job, which is get left-handed power hitters out, and he continues to do that for us. Nick Mears, really his first shot at the bigs with us. He's been dynamite in the minor leagues, and we finally got him up to the majors, and he performed pretty well. FIP in the high 3s. ERA in the low threes, so a pretty good season from him. He's a solid reliever to have on the team. Ryan Nelson, I didn't necessarily expect him to be in the starting role this year, but he performed pretty well in it. Worth about a 3-win player. He's our best pitcher on the year, or most valuable starting pitcher, I should say. Again, good ERA. Strikes lots of guys out. Walks a decent clip of guys as a starter, but still a very good player. Nick Nelson, he got about half of his appearances were starts, and he was pretty dynamite for us. Seems like every other year now he has a good season or kind of an average season. This year was a great season for him. Sub-3 ERA, fifth in the more mid-threes. He's a strikeout master, over 10 guys per 9. Just a great season from him overall. Javi Gura, guy who's just consistently the best reliever for us, pretty much our best right-handed relievers, I should say. He's just not rated the highest, but he just performed for us. Great ground ball pitcher. Scott Alexander, our other lefty in the bullpen, he had another great season. He's been a great pickup for us ever since we got him the Rule 5 draft. He continues to be a lefty stopper. Jeff Hartlieb has also been a fantastic reliever for us, who's just very consistently just puts out good performances. He's an extreme ground ball pitcher, and he uses that to his advantage. 3 FIP exactly. And then also we have David Bednar here, who has been a pretty good pitcher for us. He was good last year. This year he was even better. There's another guy who in our bullpen who, he's not the most highly rated guy in our bullpen, but all these guys in our bullpen just perform consistently. They're very good, and they're also very effective. One guy who, there are a few guys here who aren't on the roster because it got messed up because of the playoff roster and stuff. Blake Cederland, he was a guy who also was good for us. He's another consistent just reliever for us. And then also I want to highlight Tristan McKenzie, who I can't find for some reason. There he is. He didn't get many innings because of the injury, only 25, but he was pretty good in those 25 innings, and I would expect him to most likely be on the playoff roster. Same thing, at least I don't think I saw Carlos Carrasco, but he was just okay. He wasn't very good. He was kind of just, probably one of our worst performers in the year. Don't know if he's going to be in the playoff roster, but we will have to see. The Yadier Alvarez injury will probably decide a lot of that. All right, and now before we get into the, of course, wildcard game with the Padres, which will be next episode, not this one, let's go ahead and preview the Padres team. As for offense, there's really not much to write home about there. We're the 10th most runs scored in the National League. Their offense is pretty towards the bottom in all of these offensive categories. So not a very good offensive team, but pitching and defense is where they're very good. They allowed the second least amount of runs. They have a good starting rotation and bullpen. Almost tops in the NL and FIP. Very good defensive team, first in defensive efficiency. Pretty good when it comes to zone rating, so they cover a lot of ground and they do not make a lot of errors. Looking at the lineup, I can see why it is not very good. They have C.J. Abrams, Robert Hassel, Fernando Tatis, and Jorge Ona. Tatis and Abrams are pretty good. Definitely their best offensive players. Gio Urshela also is a pretty good offensive player for them, but other than that, they're pretty much offensive black holes. Capusano's not very good. Grisham is pretty good, but didn't have a good season, or is pretty nicely rated as an on-base guy, but didn't have a good season. Hosmer's, of course, is actually a black hole at first base. He's terrible offensively, although he is good defensively. Cannot forget that, even though he had about an average season this year. So, their offense is not very impressive. But what kind of does come into play here is their rotation. Mackenzie Gore is a stud starter. He is extremely good. It'll be interesting to see who we face in the playoffs. He is pretty exhausted, so you'd have to think it wouldn't be him. Hopefully that's not him, because the other guys they have are not nearly as good. Ryan Weathers is another starter for them who was pretty good this season as well. Joe Musgrove wasn't that great this season, but is still a pretty well-rated pitcher. They do have some key injuries in their pitching, though. Austin Adams, he was done for the playoffs. He just won't play. Blake Snell, also done for the playoffs. Pierce Johnson, he could possibly come back. He's out 3 to 4 weeks. Well, he won't be here for the wild card game, but he could come back if they were to advance. And Seth Beer is also out. He didn't get much playing time for them, so I'd assume that they got him in a trade or on waivers. So some key pitching injuries for them. Hopefully we can use that to our advantage. And hopefully we don't get Mackenzie Gore in our wild card game. As for the playoff roster at the moment, depending on how Yadier Alvarez's injury shakes out, will kind of determine the playoff roster. But basically I added Blake Cederland and Tristan McKenzie to the playoff roster. I decided to take Palma off just because he wasn't performing well, and at least for me, I don't really think it's worthwhile to have 13 guys on the roster, at least for 13 hitters on the roster, at least how our roster is constructed. We have Cole Tucker as our backup infielder / just utility player, and then we have Jing Shang, who's our left-handed pinch hitter, and now we have Christian Robinson, who is not going to be starting. Schwaggerty starting his right-handed pitching. He's going to be a left-handed pinch hitting option against left-handed pitching. So there's just no room for Palma since he didn't perform well. I'm just not going to play him. So there's no point in him being on the roster, and I'd rather have extra pitching if I'm not going to play Palma. So that's basically my kind of thought process behind that. It looks like we're going to be getting Weathers here. I'll sim a little bit here so we can see who we will get. And yeah, Yadier Alvarez, as you can see, tore his ulnar collateral ligament. He's out 13 months. His ratings dipped. I'm not too surprised, so we're going to go ahead and add someone else to our playoff roster. I'm not quite sure who this is going to be. Actually, no, I do. It's going to be Carrasco, so we're going to go ahead and put him on the team. And sim another day until we get to the wildcard game and see if we're actually going to be facing Ryan Weathers. And it looks like we probably will be facing Ryan Weathers, as Mackenzie Gore is still only 70% rested. So they're going to risk it and not go with him, it looks like. Looks like he might have had to make an extra start because they did start at 34 games, so he might be the reason that they got into the playoffs with that extra start. But they're going to be starting Ryan Weathers, who I definitely would rather face. He is a lefty, though, so it looks like Robinson will probably get the start in center field because of that. So, when we come back next episode, we'll be getting into the wildcard game. Let's see who we probably will have on the mound. Ryan Nelson is fully rested, so there's no reason to not have him start. He does have a pretty low stamina, so I will not hesitate to go to kind of someone else. If we have to, I won't hesitate to go to Nick Nelson if Ryan Nelson struggles early, or another guy like Tristan McKenzie or Quinn Priester even. I won't hesitate to go for those guys if Nelson just doesn't have the beginning. That's definitely the best route to go, especially in single elimination in the playoff. If your starter doesn't have it, find someone who does, because if you wait around for him to find it, you most likely will be in a hole, and then you won't be able to get out of it most of the time. So that's going to do it for the episode. Next episode, I should say, where I'm going to be coming back with the wildcard game against the Padres, which I'm super excited for, the first playoff baseball of the series. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next episode.